welcome and hello to our third session of Reframing Collections, which is a dialogue series in cooperation between the ICOM COMCOL, the Committee for Collecting, and the We Are Museums network. And it's a new initiative, and it's our third session today. We already had a session on querying the collections and on diversity as a focus for collecting. And the whole program is dedicated to discussing collecting practices, finding new ways for interaction to engage visitors in the collections. And it's going to be a monthly series with I think up to 6 or 7 talks, and today it's my pleasure to host the third session on digital collecting, and this is a very interesting topic for me especially. I'll tell you when I introduce myself, but with the digital, also with Corona and all the digital transformation, digital tools and the possibilities come more and more into the focus of museums, and we're going to explore today the potential of digital tools and approaches for more participatory approaches and participation in general, and also see how we can use it to engage people with our collections more. And we're going to look at digital tools and AI and participation and all in relation to collections. I am your host. I'm Christiane Lindner, and I'm working at the Baden State Museum in Germany in a digital project that I'm leading, the project Museum+AI, that's dedicated to create a digital museum platform to foster dialogue and rapid response settings, and also rethink the museum experience in the digital world a little bit. And that's why I'm specifically interested in this topic of digital tools and participation, and how we can make the museums more approachable with it. I have invited 2 fantastic guests today to discuss with us. Johannes Bernhardt, who is the digital manager at the Baden State Museum and also my dear colleague, and Elena Villaespesa, who is an assistant professor at the Pratt Institute in New York and is co-investigator of the Museum and AI network. And I'm going to introduce them longer before their talks. We're going to spend the next 1.5 hours discussing. But first, I think before we start, it would be nice to have a quick introduction round for everybody to meet. And then Elena and Johannes will present and talk to each other, because this is our format that we would like to have an intense discussion between our 2 guests. And then we're going to open the discussion for the whole for all of us, and have like a campfire discussion. And in the end, I'll wrap it up, and at 2:30, I hope we are going to have had a very interesting and intense discussions about digital collections. I have to say that we're going to record the session. I hope this is okay with everybody. The session will also be released after, so we can all rewatch it and reminisce also. So let's start, I would say, with a quick round of introduction. And since I think we're joining from all over the world, it would be cool to say who you are, where are you joining us from, maybe what the time is, so we can know who is in the middle of the night and needs coffee or something, and also what your connection or interest or link to our today's topic is. That would be really cool. Maybe just a quick round so we all know who we are dealing with, to quote The Godfather or something. So maybe I'll start. So I'm Christiane. I'm joining you from Germany, where it is 1 p.m. and it did snow a little, but now it's raining. And my connection to the topic I already said. So I hand over to maybe Daniele.
Hi, my name is Daniele Kuijten. I'm the chair of COMCOL, but also acting director of Imagine IC. I'm based in Amsterdam. It's 8:01 p.m. at the moment. It's raining here already the whole day, so it's a very gloomy day. So I'm happy to be with you and to see some happy faces, to bring some sunshine into the day. And for me, collecting, well, as chair of COMCOL, of course, all the different aspects of collecting are interesting for me, but especially the whole development in the digital sphere is of course top of mind, especially after last year, but it's of course already a development that is going on for so many years. And my specific interest is also in the ethics of digital collecting.
Thank you, Daniele. Do you want to nominate somebody else? Should we do it like that? Or?
Yeah, sure. Sandro.
Thank you, Danielle. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandro De Bono. I'm an academic at the University of Malta. So it's the Mediterranean here. It's 10 minutes past 1. And it's good weather, as expected from the Mediterranean, although don't take it for granted. I'm an ex-museum director, so collections and collections development has been a topic which I've dealt with, not just as far as research is concerned, but also from a practical point of view. And I'm here to discover new things, to learn and to exchange ideas with the rest of the motley crew. Yes, I have to pass the word, sorry, to Marta.
I think you need to start your
sound.
Yeah, you're muted.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Marta. I live in Barcelona. The weather today is really sunny. It's also 1 o'clock here, 1 p.m. And I'm working as a volunteer for 2 organizations. One is REMET, is the Spanish Network of Museums and Digital Strategies. So Elena is one of the speakers in our conference next March. And also Concha Roda is involved in the event as in the scientific committee. So it's good to see some familiar and Spanish faces too. And I work in also for another organization, is the ICOM, is the Committee for Audiovisuals, New Technologies and Museums, and Social Media Museums, sorry. So I'm working as a volunteer, but looking for a job, and you know, I would like to be involved in digital projects in museums, so learn about digital collection is interesting for me. So that's why I'm here. So Florencia.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here with all of you. I am Florencia from Argentina, Buenos Aires. It's raining here too. I am currently working at the National Evita Museum in the department collection, and I am a young board member of COMCOL, so that is why I'm happy to be here. And maybe Elena, next one.
So introduce myself then?
Yeah, maybe. Just
So my name is Elena. I'm from Spain. I live currently in New York. As you can see in my windows, it was pretty dark like a few minutes ago. It's 7:12 a.m. here. So yeah, I will be speaking today. I am assistant professor at Pratt, and I've been working in museums for the past like 12, 13 years in digital projects, currently focusing on AI. So I'll say next one, Chelsea.
Hi, everyone. I'm from Taiwan, and we are the colleague of COMCOL with a young member, and I'm very happy to meet you guys. And we are looking for some concepts about collections to collectings. So the concept of transformation to museum is more like active. So it's what I'm interested in the digital and something like collection to transformation. This is what I'm interested in. So very happy to meet you. Thank you. And the next one may be Alice.
Hi everyone. This is my first one here from Swansea, Wales. It's very rainy here. I'm a master's student, but I'm also a volunteer transcriber with the Wellcome Institute into an online collection. So I discovered this through LinkedIn and was very fascinated by the topics. I'm here primarily to just observe and see how I can utilize the online collections into my volunteering. Oh, sorry. Volunteer, Silke?
Silke, you're muted.
I think now she's frozen.
Yes, yes.
Maybe we quickly move on.
Yes, maybe Aida is next.
Hey, hello. My name is Aida and I'm from Lithuania and I live in Telšiai and work in this regional museum called the Magician Museum Alka. We have more than 75,000 exhibits there, and I'm interested also in digital projects and how to give more attention to exhibits that we have in our museum. And we have much snow in Lithuania right now, but it's not cold. So I give word to Rasa from Lithuania.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Lithuanian, but I'm actually not based in Lithuania. I work in the Netherlands at the Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision. As was already mentioned, Netherlands is having a very gray, rainy day, so I'm always happy to be here as well. Zoom is much more cozy at the moment. I primarily work on European innovation and research projects, and I'm particularly interested in making museum collections more diverse and polyvocal and more engaging to various communities that we perhaps have not been engaging with, using digital and analog methods. I don't remember who else hasn't introduced themselves. Maybe Marina
and Johannes are left. Oh, and Marina, actually, sorry. Yes.
Okay, so I go forward. My name is Marina. I'm from Ulm, Germany. I'm working for the Museum Ulm. I'm the project manager for nextmuseum.io, which is a digital platform for co-curation and co-creation. We are part of the Fund Digital of the German Federal Cultural Foundation, and it's a joint project with the NRW Forum Düsseldorf. And I'm very interested in rethinking the collection. We are working with new art, and next step will be to focus on our collection in the museum. So I'm pretty curious. And it's nice to meet you all. It's my first time here. It's actually my first day in this community. I'm sorry, but I think it's only Johannes left, right?
And Alina and Kongsa and Silke when she's back.
Yeah, and who shall I?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Johannes. I'm working with Christiane at the Baden State Museum, and I'm the, as Christiane said, digital manager. Weather is catastrophic in Karlsruhe at the moment, gloomy as hell. So it's good to be here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Hi, I'm Alina. I'm in Berlin, and we have in this moment a bit of sun, so you can see it on my half of my face. It's not raining, but it has been very gray in the last days. And I'm very happy to see you here. I'm based in the Jewish Museum Berlin and part of the COMCOL family, so I'm also interested in every aspect of collections, and especially right now with us not moving around, this aspect of digitalization of collections is becoming increasingly important, I think, for not only for people who work with this professionally, but for everyone in the museum. So happy to see you.
Okay, then maybe Silke, you try again.
Yeah, thanks. I try. I think it's working now.
Yes.
Okay, because I was frozen. So, my name is Silke. I'm working in this joint project, which is called Museum 4.0 with Christiane. And in our project, there are several museums working on digital tools. And I'm in the organization team, and my role is the communication and education. And so I'm interested in everything about we will talk.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Then Elisabeth has joined us. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm based in Berlin. I'm Elisabeth Markiewicz, and I founded a few years ago still the only platform on every screen, smart TVs, and all, showing basically your collections. We've been focusing only on the collection because we were seeing that all the museums were focusing on their temporary exhibitions, and we were interested in their collection. And we've been doing very unique films on each work. And today we are opening the platform to every museum to become a hub where a viewer can have a true art experience, whatever it is, with art, video artists, films, interviews, and even entertainment films all around art.
Thank you. Welcome. We still have Concha left. If you want to switch on your video and say hi. If not, it's fine also. Okay. Then maybe we start our discussion section. It's really great to have such a diverse group from all over the world here, and I'm already very curious what we're going to hear and discuss in the next hour. Well, as I have said, the digital tools and digital approaches to collecting are becoming more important daily, I think, also as Alina put it. And it's very interesting that like the digital sphere in general has a great potential for participatory approaches, because in the digital it's inscribed, like people produce their own content on the internet, they meet and share things, they co-create things. And so in the digital sphere, a lot of things that we discuss in the museum world for being more inclusive, diverse and participatory, it's already happening. So it's really interesting to look what we can learn and use from the digital to enhance or create more inclusive collections and create new ways into the collections. And I'm very happy to announce our two guests now again. I think 3 times for introduction is also a good count. So Johannes and Elena are both going to do a short presentation now for 10 minutes each, and then discuss with each other. But we decided before that if you had any questions after each talks to clarify or anything, so there will be time to ask these questions. But for the discussion, I would ask you to wait for our campfire sessions, if that's okay. So Johannes is going to start, and it's as he already said, he's my dear colleague at the Baden State Museum. But before he went into the museum world, he spent 10 years as a researcher and teacher at different universities in Germany. And at the Baden State Museum, he was responsible for the Creative Collections project, where he was in charge of creating digital tools in participatory methods together with our citizens. And he's an expert in product design methods like design thinking and participatory methods. And he's now the digital manager and responsible for the whole digital enterprises endeavors of the museum and the digital strategy. And well, I know a little what he's going to talk about, but I think I'll leave it to him now to introduce his topic. Johannes, the floor is yours.
So thanks for the introduction, and thanks for the invitation. I'm thrilled to be here. And the task for my talk, and it will be around 10 minutes, was to say something about the connections of participation, digital collections, what is going on in our museum, and how all this leads to artificial intelligence, because that will be the kickoff for Elena's talk. So you have a first impression what is going on. I share my screen. And don't be irritated, I'm in this call 2 times because I'm using several computers. It's always me. Can everybody see it? Does it work?
Yes, it works.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So I start right away. Here you can see Karlsruhe Palace in southern Germany, the home of our museum. It's a cultural historical museum with a large collection, 500,000 objects. And everything I will say in the following is conditioned or has as a starting point that the museum will be renovated and remade in the next 5 years, around 5 years, because the museum was completely destroyed in the Second World War and rebuilt, and since then the infrastructure has been more or less the same, so it's pretty dated. And this situation that we are looking for, or we are going into a renovation process, gave the unique possibility to rethink the museum from the ground up. So that's the starting point. So we developed in a long process a new museum concept, and the core idea of this museum concept was and is that the visitors should become active users of the museum. So as you will see at the end of my talk, we are starting to go one further step, but this is the core idea. And to do this, we developed a new concept to present and to access our collections. So we opened in 2019 our first prototype exhibition about the archaeology in Baden, objects that were found in the Baden region, mainly from prehistoric times. And this prototype has, in fact, 3 parts. The first part of this exhibition you can see here is showing some highlight objects, very scenographed, I'd say. And then you have this part here, we call it the expothek, where you can explore and research the objects. And then there's a third part you can see here. It's called the Expo Lab, where you can experience objects via virtual reality in their original context and experience small stories and experience the material directly. But the important part for the access to the collections is the expothek, the image you can see here. And this is designed like a laboratory where you have very many objects. They are on a small place, maybe 1,500 objects. You can see here, can you see my mouse cursor here? Does it work?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see here drawers, and all this is filled up with objects. There are no object signs or anything. If you enter this exhibition, you get a smartphone, we call it the Expo phone, and via augmented reality, you can identify objects directly with the smartphone and then put your a smartphone on one of these media tables, and the collection of your objects will be uploaded to these tables, and there you can do a lot of things, play games, access deeper knowledge about these objects. And in the background is a digital catalog, and a new thing, really interesting, opens up a lot of possibilities. We have now a user ID and replace the classical entrance tickets to the museum by ID, user IDs that are working for 1 year and are working like a library card or a library ID. And if you use the digital catalog and your personal user ID, you can search objects that are interesting, that are in this collection, and you can order them like in a reading room, and then they will be taken out of the showcases and presented to you directly. And if it is possible, maybe a Flintstone or something that isn't too fragile, you can take it into hand even. So what we are trying to do in this exhibition and with the access to the collections is to use analog and dialogue connections to access the objects of our collections directly. So Christiane was talking about this Creative Collections project that is kicking off at this point. And there we were trying to think digitality and the digital together with participation. And as Christiane said, one of the keystones of this project is that the digital is already participatory, if you want it or not, it is. So what we did in this project was to establish a citizen council of the museum of around 50 people, as diverse as possible. And we invited them to develop together with us, and starting from the infrastructure we already have, new concepts, new digital concepts that would be interesting. And I show you some random images of these workshops we organized in our museum. There were a lot of them, and we were using design thinking methods so the citizens could develop their own projects and their own concepts, and there came a lot of prototyping material up in this process. And we combined this this approach with the format of museum camps. It was somewhat inspired by what Nina Simon is doing was doing in Santa Cruz and colleagues in Amsterdam with this format, but we gave it our own spin and organized it as an open bar camp where everybody was invited to participate and to discuss topics that are interesting to develop the museum of the future. So again, some random pictures. Up on the left side, you see one of the plenary sessions. Then on the right side, a session board where all the topics and themes were collected. And all these topics and themes were proposed by the citizens themselves. So we only gave the framework for this barcamp and open conference format, and the citizens could decide by themselves what they wanted to discuss. And it was pretty mind-blowing what came up in this process. So next we went some step further and established in the museum at the marketplace in the city center. It's part of our museum infrastructure, an open space to make it easier to organize participatory events. And we called that one the Museum X. And we called it Museum X with this variable dx because we didn't want to give answers, but to discuss with everybody who's interested what the museum of the future should look like. And since we analyzed the whole process of our participatory events and workshops and camps and so on, and had a pretty clear pictures about the needs and interests of our citizens, we organized in the Museum X a hackathon with 50 participants that were developing first prototypes, functional prototypes of what we were discussing with our citizens. And some of the projects are still ongoing. Christiane and I are working on this material a lot. And I show you maybe two complementary tools that grew out of these processes. One is the web app, Your Gift, Dein Geschenk, which offers a framework, a really open framework where citizens, visitors, users of the museums can collect objects in the museum and frame them as a gift for someone special and put in audio files and audio messages and personalize it. It's a very intimate tool we developed in cooperation with a British artist collective. It's called Blast Theory, and we translated it and developed it a little bit further because it fit perfectly in what was going on in our citizen processes. And another project which combines digital and participatory things is the app My Object that we implemented in cooperation with the Humboldt Forum and the Museum 4.0 and network that was mentioned earlier. It's a really interesting tool that gives another access to our collections because that is what you can see on the left side. You can swipe through our collections like in Tinder, and then if you have found an object that fits your interests, you have a match, and then starts a dialogue like in WhatsApp or Telegram or whatever messenger you use, and the object starts to talk to you and invites you to visit it in the museum. And actually, these dialogues in the background are scripted, and we organized, Christiane was heavily involved in this, we organized a participatory process within our museum. So a lot of colleagues of all departments were involved in writing these dialogues, and a lot of citizens too were writing dialogues for this app. So we have a wide spectrum of different viewpoints, opinions, approaches. It's really interesting. I think a really polyphonic endeavor. And so I finish in a second. So we were reaching the AI topic in this process because it was pretty obvious that many of the needs and interests of our citizens could be addressed perfectly if we approach the artificial intelligence field to personalize the materials we offer to our users. And we have now a project. It's starting these days. Yesterday was one of the kickoffs to do it and to develop a tool we call at the moment, its working title, iCurator, which helps our visitors and users to curate their own content and put it into our system. And so this is what I meant in the beginning. We are trying now to develop our museum concept from visitors to users one step further to active co-creators. And there comes this other project interview that Christiane is leading at the moment, the Museum X.0, where we are trying to develop a new digital platform that offers new possibilities for rapid response settings, dialogue between the museum and the users, and the co-creative development of new experiences. It follows more or less the same approach, but I think I'm a little bit out of time, so I think I stop at that point, and maybe there are questions because it's a lot of material. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Johannes, for the presentation. Are there any questions for the presentation. I already saw one in the chat that I'm going to read. Are the apps in German language or available in English too? A question from Ida.
At the moment, they are only in German, but there are plans, and I think we will go on in this direction to have at least an English version. But for example, the app I showed, Your Gift, where you can collect objects and reframe them as a gift, was originally developed in English. And there, for us, mainly was the problem to get a German version together. But there is already an English version that can be used. And in fact, it's an open source project. You can use it right away if you're interested. So that's a thing we are trying to do a lot with all the things I've shown you. To do it open source, to have proper documentations, to put the stuff on GitHub, and to have an own GitHub account for the museum, so others can use this material too, especially, for example, smaller museums that don't have the infrastructure to develop large app projects or digital platforms and so
on. Sandra had a question. In what ways were curators and conservators roped in, and what's your experience with that? Maybe if this is too long to answer, but maybe a quick answer.
This question implies a lot, I think, a lot of experiences, I think, but that's a mixed bag. So we have curators that are heavily involved, really interested, and some are, of course, not. And I think that's just the usual situation you envisage in a museum. But we have, fortunately, a lot of curators that are really interested, that are trying and starting to think about their exhibition projects by including the app projects. For example, the app My Object, where you can have a chat with an object, is something that is also interesting for our curators. So they are thinking a lot about it. How can I include it in an innovative way in my exhibition project? That's already happening. And we were trying with this design thinking approach, for example, when we involved the citizens in the concept development, we tried right away to have members of all departments in our team to moderate these workshops with the citizens. So there were curators, administration people, restoration people from every department, and it was intentionally done so that this would have an effect on the whole structure of the museum. And at the moment, with the curation iCurator project, where we are opening this artificial intelligence box, we are involving all our curators because it's their domain we are entering with this tool.
Maybe a quick answer also. Is there a chance to get more about the to know more about the iCurator project? Asks.
Yeah, it will. It will. In fact, there will be in some weeks, end of March. I can send a link later, or Christiane can maybe do it. There will be a network meeting in our museum, a digital one. Everybody can participate. Elena will be participating too. I'm really happy about that, because we are trying to. There's already this network in the English-speaking world. Elena will talk about it in a minute, I think. And we were trying to bring together in the German-speaking world museums and cultural institutions that are trying to do something with artificial intelligence, because it's a lot going on and it's hardly visible yet. And so we thought it's a nice idea to have a network and to make this stuff visible. So there we will discuss also the iCurator thing, but the project is just starting. We are organizing with our partners in Amsterdam at the moment, but we will publish materials soon, I think, so you can have more insight in what is going on and what we are doing. And there will be probably a lot of events too.
Okay, Thank you very much. I would say if there's any more questions, maybe to save them for the campfire discussion later. Thank you, Johannes, for introducing like a range of digital tools and our project. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Elena, our second guest again. As she already said, she's an assistant professor at Pratt Institute, and her research focus is on digital strategy, digital user experience, and she did her PhD in Leicester University in the UK, and she also worked as a data analyst for two big players in the museum world, the Tate and the Metropolitan Museum. And she's the co-investigator of the Museum and the AI project in the UK and the US, and she's gonna tell us now a lot, I think, about museums and AI and her work and research in this area. Elena, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christiane. Let me share the screen. Oops. All right, so you are looking at my screen right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, thank you for the invitation as well to participate here in this discussion. I'm gonna go briefly over the project, this Museums and AI Network project that we did in 2019. Myself and also Dr. Una Murphy from Goldsmiths, University of London. So here you have, it was funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council in the UK. And we have some museums who partnered from the beginning and also for the funding applications, and then others joined during the project. So we had the Met, the National Gallery, the American Museum of Natural History, and then of course the partnership between our universities. So just to give you a bit of context, this is one thing that we did at the beginning of the project, was to map, like, okay, how many projects, what type of projects museums are doing in the area of AI. Artificial intelligence is a pretty big concept, and it's very hard like to get like a good classification of topics, but we did our best here in the topics that we saw museums using the most. So here there are about, I think it was like 70 projects that we found in the museum sector of museums using AI. And as you can see in this timeline, the growth starts really like the last 3 years. And I have continued this list of projects, and now I have over like 100. And of course, in the past year, there has been a lot of work on that area too. You can also see that there is a huge interest in the museum sector on machine learning and specifically computer vision, which I'm going to focus a lot on today. The project focused on how to use AI for museum data. We focus on visitor data and also collection data, but for the purpose of today's talk, I'm just going to talk about the latest one. So our research questions were like, what are the opportunities and challenges to apply AI technologies to the collection data? How can museums minimize the algorithm biases to interpret their collections? Something very important, with the lack of diversity in the museum field and also in the AI field, be reflected in the outcomes of using these technologies. And also, you know, what are the implications of museums engaging with big companies to develop the different outputs. So yeah, as I mentioned, we started small, but then the project grew and involves 6 universities, 50 experts, 50 museums, and also we did 2 big events, which involved 200 members of the public. So here you have some photos of who these people were and our workshop work. So we did one event in London at Goldsmiths, and then another event at my university at Pratt Institute. The 2 big events were at the Barbican Center and the second one at the Cooper Hewitt. I will add later the link because you can watch the talk and the discussion on YouTube. So during those events and workshops, several case studies were presented. So I'm going to mention very briefly those projects, and then I will talk about the conclusions of the project. So for example, the Welcome Collection is using machine learning and computer vision to identify, different elements in their artworks and be able to link and find related content in their collection. The Princeton University Art Museum is using natural language processing to basically identify different entities in their text. So then again, they can create relationships in their materials. Harvard Art Museums, they have these, I added the link so you can find more information. They have this website where they provide the data of 5 different computer vision systems. You have here Amazon, Clarify, Imaca, Google, and Microsoft. They apply it to their collection and they provide the results on this website. So it's very interesting because you can see the results from all these 5 different computer systems. And they created subject tags, but also labels for objects. The Met has been doing a lot of work on AI. They have been using as well different computer vision systems. And they have also tagged the collection manually, adding subjects to 300,000 objects. And they are now using that data to train algorithms. They have also done several competitions online involving the data scientists to discover and think of new approaches to represent the collection. MoMA, who was also involved in the project, presented a case study about how they use computer vision to analyze all photographs in their archive. They were all exhibition photographs. So what they did was use the algorithms to identify the artworks in those exhibition photographs and be able to link that to the online collection. So if you navigate now, the photographs archive, you can click, you can see these purple dots here. You can click there and then access the online collection, the specific artwork there. Another partner in this project was the Science Museum Group in London, and they again use algorithms to create tags. They are doing a huge, massive digitization project, digitizing, I don't know, I can't remember the number, but hundreds of objects a day. And of course, those need to be cataloged and they need a description and everything, and that takes time. So they're using AI technologies to create subjects that will allow users to search their collection. So some of the conclusions of the project and what we talk about is that, of course, AI presents new ways to showcase the collection, to provide access for users. And as you can see here in the quotes from some of the participants, they talk about how they can create this additional metadata or new metadata in some cases that will allow users to discover their objects online. And here in this second quote, it's interesting because they were talking about how in museums we have this specific terminology and our vocabularies to describe artworks, but when using computer vision and other systems, we were able to describe the collections in different ways, using terms that were not in basically the museum vocabulary. So here's an example. This is from the project I presented from the Harvard Art Museum. So you can see for this still life that the different computer vision systems brought different keywords. So many of them were able to identify that there was a watermelon, there was fruit, it was food. But then you can start seeing some differences and even some interpretation of the artwork. I think it was Imaga was saying it's sweet, delicious, it's juicy, and Clarify was saying that this was healthy, again juicy. So that was interesting because, of course, that data was not in the museum collection database. Same here with the Met. As I mentioned, they have tagged manually their collection. And you can see those museum tags here in this table for these artworks. And those included, like the gender of the person represented on the artwork, whether it was a portrait or a landscape. But it was interesting from the computer-generated tags to see that they were able to identify some clothing elements in those artworks. You can see here like dress, garment, or hat, that it was not described by the curatorial or the digital department. However, one thing we learned in the project is that all these technologies are still very experimental. There is this tension still of, data is not 100% accurate. How we're going to display data that is not correct in our website? So there is this tension and this internal debate about, how to use this data. It shows some advantages to discover and provide new information to the collection, but there's always some risk, and we've seen it in the news how algorithms sometimes have failed really badly. And another problem, and this comes to resources, is that there is a lack of AI expertise in-house. Museums are currently engaging with big tech companies, but there's only a few cultural institutions that actually have a data scientist in their staff. So that brings a lot of challenges. And also, even when using these technologies, how you run the algorithm, and those things are kind of like becoming easier and easier, like getting that data set of tags. But what is the process now to clean up the data and bring it to an app or a website? However, some of the museums presenting their prototypes and some examples of how they are using the data. So this is Art Explorer from the Met, and this is a website where they're prototyping how to provide an interface where users will be able to search using different tags. So you can see here, oops, oh no. Okay, my mouse is going crazy. So you can see here the tags. And then also some suggested tags in the search box. And instead of, doing that typical search using the department or the medium, you can also use the subject topics to do that. And here's the example from the Harvard Art Museum. They have this website, the Triple IF Project Explorer site, where again, using different AI technologies and using the data from those 5 computer vision systems, they are generating different interactives. Like magic message, for example, you type, I love cats, and it looks for those words like I love cats. It looks for example, the word cats in their images. So it provides you a result with the sentence you wrote, but illustrated with artworks from the collection, like cats from the artworks. But I mean, one of the things we know is that there's a challenging process working with AI in the whole data cycle, from when you gather the data, when you train it, and also with the results and how good or bad those are. One of the things we discussed during the project is that in the training process, you need a lot of data to train the algorithm. This was Jeannie Choi from the Met, who said okay, our collection is huge. We have 500,000 objects digitized, but we only have 600 cats. It's not enough to train the algorithm. And as you can see here, the cats are very different depending on the art period. So it's very hard for the algorithm to learn all the different type of cats in art history. And then there are other challenges, like the computer vision systems were very good at identifying colors and shapes and forms, but it's very hard to get contextualized and interpretative data from the usage of computer vision systems. For example, in this sculpture of Cleopatra, computer algorithms were able to see that it was a sculpture, that it was, it was art, maybe even the medium, but they were not able to identify that it was Cleopatra. And the same happened with many historical and political people in the Met's collection. they were not able to identify George Washington or others. And of course, the biggest challenge is like, it's not 100% accurate. Algorithms are getting better and better. I had the data from different years for the Met collection, and it's getting much better. But still, you know, you get like huge errors. Like I got some examples here. Here from the Science Museum, this chemical fertilizer, it says that it's a musical instrument, a rattle. Like gender challenges, and you know, and like that's very challenging to display on a museum collection. Like a man identified as a lady, and then I like this one that the algorithm thinks is a diaper bag. And just very briefly, one topic that we covered a lot during the project was ethics, because, you know, we're using data, we are using external algorithms, it could be risky. So we talk a lot about the need of an ethical framework that, you know, could respond to this new emerging technology. And that's also, you know, has been discussed in conferences. And I have this quote here from Elizabeth Mary, director of the American Alliance of Museums, that says, you know, that you know, museums have now this role as well, not only to use it ethically, but also to raise those issues to the rest of the public and teach the public about it. So I wanted to share a couple of resources with you today. So what we did at the end, we wanted to be a very practical research project with something tangible that museums could use. So we published last year a toolkit. We'll add the link in the chat. So it's a series of worksheets that museums can use when planning an AI project. It makes you think about, you know, the data workflow, how to manage the stakeholders, and also what are the capabilities that you need to undertake this type of projects. So I have the link here. I put it now in the chat. And also, actually, yesterday we published this paper in the Museum Management and Curatorship Journal. I have a link to access some free copies. We also put it on Twitter. I don't know how many have been downloaded, but I will put the link here. We only have 50 copies available. But this paper focuses particularly on the usage of computer vision on museums. And yeah, I'll leave as well my contact details in case you have any questions. So I'll stop sharing now.
Thanks, Elena, very much for this interesting insight into the AI world and network. Since we landed on point at 2, I would suggest that we go into the campfire discussion right away, but to keep a little bit of our proposed setting, I would maybe ask our 2 guests to start with questions to each other, and then please feel free to just jump in if that's okay. So Johannes and Elena, do you want?
So I'm really sorry for the chaos in my video at the moment. I had to run to my sleeping room because I have a construction site in my in front of my window, and it became unbearably loud. Sorry.
Okay, so maybe I'll start with a question. Then you can think a little of your own, because when listening to you, and I'm hosting this now, not as a colleague of Johannes, but as also a board member of ICOM COMCOL, and I'm already always interested in. How would you say, because the both of you talked about digital tools in rather big structures and bigger museums, how would you say, also listening to you, Elena, about the, you know, for AI, you need a lot of resources. How would you both say, are digital tools available for smaller museums? What's the potential there? Or is it possible for smaller museums to implement these things?
Elena, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, that's that happens with so many things, not only with AI. And I have to say, what is interesting about AI technologies, they are becoming easier and easier for people to use. Even myself, with very limited programming language knowledge, I'm able to like use those technologies and get the labels and the subject keywords for artworks using just images. So I don't need to do any like Python programming or anything. So I do hope that those technologies become more accessible for smaller museums to use. And I also hope, that one of the things we actually discussed in the paper, that there is a need for collaboration in the museum sector to come up with some guidelines and collaboration. So museums help each other, as we've done with other topics. So I hope when museums use those technologies, they can release, their code and in open sources platforms, so smaller museums can use those technologies.
Yeah, may I?
Yes.
I would like to underscore what Elena said. I think what is going on at the moment, you can see it in many fields, is that the opening of the museums is changing also the approach to handle digital tools and platforms and so on. That step by step, open source culture and the open culture becomes more popular. And it's maybe a generational thing that younger museum people are getting in charge. There are a lot of young museum directors that are pushing open source approaches, and I think it will become stronger and stronger in the future. I think there's actually no alternative to it, because this old approach that every museum is developing its own app and then you have 5,000 of them and not even one is working properly, that's absurd. And I think with a view to AI, this is maybe one of the most interesting implicit aspects of this field, that no museum will be able to do it alone. So we are reaching their point in the digital sector where museums have to cooperate if they want to or not, or otherwise AI approaches will come in from other sectors and be applied to museums from the outside. There's now a force to do it, and really a need to cooperate. And I think that's really interesting. So I think it was a great idea in the English-speaking world to establish an AI network for museums, and we had a similar idea for the German-speaking world to do it, right from the start to propose what could be ways to cooperate on chatbots, on computer vision, on language processing, to bind together different approaches and initiatives, so you can have synergies right away. And I think it will happen. It has to. It's no longer an option. It's necessary.
Are there any? Alina, yes.
Yes, thank you so much for these presentations, and which are very inspiring. I'm very interested in the question of categorization, and so the question which I have in this connection is to both of you: how the digital devices or the opportunities which it brings with them allows us to work on categorization, because I mean we have our categories in our catalogs. So when we are looking for objects, we go to one or another, but we realize today that this category is actually needed to be redone and rethought. And so where are we standing, or where are you standing? Do you go back to and think about recategorization, or do you work with what is there now? So which opportunities and challenges we have concerning categorization of objects?
Elena, do you want to start, or shall I?
Go ahead.
So I think there are actually two ways. I think the starting point is really just to state that the categories of a museum are usually not the categories of the visitors. So, very often they don't fit. So because in a scientific perspective, things are important that are utterly irrelevant for visitors. So, so you have to state this. And then I think you have two directions or approaches. The first one is if it concerns the digital, you have a database or something where categories are working already, and you open that thing up and see what users are doing with it. If you are able to involve them in working with the material in any way. For example, you invite Wikimedians to take some thousand object data sets and to work with them, or to take a part collection or several hundred objects and do it with this Wikimedian crowdsourcing approach. For example, it's one direction. The other direction and approach, in my view, is to use these tools Elena was presenting to recategorize in an automatic way. So that's maybe one of the most interesting aspects of using artificial intelligence approaches, that you can really quickly relabel and recategorize collections in different with a different perspective. So there are already a lot of interesting art projects going on, for example, where you can some you can use right away on the Google Arts experiments platform, where you can choose, for example, from the arts and culture a database, 2 objects, random, for example, a Greek vase or some furniture from the Baroque or Renaissance period, and the AI is creating a line of objects that leads from one to the other. So you have a set of objects, maybe 10, 15, 20, 50, you choose. And the thing is, they are categorized and organized in a way that has nothing to do with art history. There are criteria working in the background that are completely different. And it may be interesting, for example, for visitors to do something like that. I've seen this in an exhibition a while ago, where users were happy to experiment with this kind of organization, and that's only a simple example. So you can do much more complex things and use, for example, an image database to re-edit all the keywords and the labels of objects.
Yeah, I would say that's a very like challenging process
Yes.
to have that categorization and recategorization of and cleanup of the data, just like those open sources, like databases that are available. You can see museums, even just like the manual input is not like 100% like correct or clean to do data analysis. But I wanted to mention regards to computer vision that I did a study comparing at the Met the museum tags, the ones developed by digital department in collaboration with the curators. I compared those with the computer vision generated tags and trying to see the overlap, like how different or similar those are. And they are so different. It was, I think the museum has about 1,000 keywords defined for subjects, and computer vision returned about 2,500. So the volume was higher in computer vision for a similar like database number of objects, and there were less than 200 in common. So that shows that it brings a completely different vocabulary to the table, and museums have to make a decision of, okay, what are the keywords that we are interested to get from computer vision systems, and how that impacts our cataloging and categorization process. Because some of them could be very useful for museums with no data at all, like providing access, by colors. The computer vision are very good at, identifying, what I said, like shapes or objects in the artwork, but they are very bad at contextualizing the data. So yeah, how museums have to make that decision when you say computer vision. And for the Met, some of the keywords were irrelevant. Like museums, computer vision will tag with, for example, art, or like things that are already in the system, even the medium or the type of artwork. So yeah, that's a challenging process. And also when computer vision algorithms get better or they change, how to, again, modify your collection database. Like Google removed gender-related tags. I don't remember, it was like 2 years ago. So if you had already your collection tag with Google computer vision systems, how do you change all your, all your data?
Daniele.
Thank you so much for your great and inspirational presentations. I was just thinking about the theme of this series, which is reframing collecting. And of course, in first instance, you would immediately think about a lot of the things that we discussed now is reframing collections, but maybe not the collecting process. And I'm just curious to hear from both of you if working in this way will also change our way how museums will collect in the future.
Absolutely. Maybe I can pick up one point of my presentation, and actually it's closely related to Christiane's project, this Museum X.0 platform. So when we developed this project out of the participatory processes we had in our museum, the main incentive was the COVID pandemic, that we thought, okay, we need something where we can react immediately to a situation like that, and not with an exhibition 2 years later or something. So we thought about a platform, and one of the first ideas to involve our curators too was we put up a platform organized like a social media platform where everybody could post or put in objects, stories, impressions, experiences that are connected to this pandemic. So we could bring it together on our platform and pick up people where they are on Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform they are using. They could put on a hashtag, and we collect all this material on our platform. That was one idea we were pursuing. There came up a lot of projects that were collecting the pandemic then later. And we abandoned this idea and came up with the more general idea to develop a platform that wouldn't be so connected to the pandemic, but could be used for all kinds of rapid responses, dialogue processes, participatory collection projects, and so on. And I think this is an important perspective, and it will become even more important in the future. And there comes the second point of our approach to use artificial intelligence, because we want to use artificial intelligence not for classical curation processes. There are a lot of projects going on to help curators to better curate their collections. But the approach we are pursuing is we want to put these AI systems in the service of our users so they can curate themselves. So you put it together, you have a platform, and you have a nice set of AI tools you can give your users, and they have nice and accessible user designs. They could do a lot on our platform with new collections. Also they could create their own exhibitions on a platform like that. We are thinking and discussing this a lot at the moment. Maybe that much.
Elena, do you also want to?
Sandro can ask a question.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Johannes and Elena, for two wonderful presentations. I really enjoyed them both. My question is for you, Elena. If I'm not mistaken, AI is a system which learns by doing. The more it moves forward in time, the more it becomes knowledgeable, the more it can be accurate. So I can see a risk there in the sense that if AI is being applied or is being adopted by a museum in Germany, and AI is being adopted by a museum in the Mediterranean, there are different languages coming together. So on the other hand, however, museums are working with standardization. So we've all been working with the Getty system and going for a very specific set of categorization, which from what you're saying is now at risk. That might not be functional. That might not be. I mean, there might be a mismatch. So how do you see this very specific application of AI and the language that is in a way cultural is being reflected in the culture of where that the AI is being applied, and the need to have a new set of standards, a new way of cataloging?
Okay, so in terms of different museums or different countries using it, I think there needs to be that collaboration, because museums have similar like eras covered in their collections. So I think museums, to be able to use and improve the results effectively, there needs to be that collaboration. If you have an Egyptian collection, at the Met, with the one at the British Museum, with the one at, other museums in the world. And that will help to train the algorithm and make it better. One thing that I know is that I know Wikimedia, they are working on as well with AI, and a way of doing that, I know the Met and other museums are working on that, is how you link that data as well with Wikidata records, and Wikidata then is translated. So there is a way of, I'm simplifying it here. The process is more complex than that, but there is a huge potential of having those tags and that data and then translate it to multiple languages. And the second part was about.
Yes, you were mentioning this potential mismatch, or the risk that the catalogization, the standards are becoming obsolete, or in 10 years they will be obsolete because they're new standards. It is what Johannes was mentioning, for example. No, this new way of looking at objects and these new tags, this new way of.
Yeah, I don't think that that cataloging system will be obsolete. Still, it's like there's so much like thought and like work behind that, those like Getty vocabularies and how museums are cataloging their records. However, I think, and based on the case studies presented on the AI project, was that computer vision can bring like new ways. It could be a way of complementing the museum data. So you're not going to tag like colors, in your, manually, but computer vision can do that very easily and with a good accuracy of maybe, what is depicted on an artwork. It can help for those things. And then, the next thing is what Johannes also mentioned, is like, okay, you have the curators like language, you have the computer vision language. And another thing that I'm very interested in is in, okay, what are museum visitors actually searching on Google and on the museum's website to find, because that language is very different. And yes. I don't know if you were familiar with the social tagging projects that were taking, I can't remember, like maybe 7-10 years ago, where you invited the crowd, to you crowdsourced that process. I think was Brooklyn Museum, the Powerhouse Museum. So those projects showed, again, different ways people describe the collection.
Johannes.
May I add maybe one point, so there's no misunderstanding. I think it is still absolutely necessary to have the scientific cataloging of collections, and so as a foundation of the whole process. But I think in the future, and it's in my view already visible, it will be a large part of the work of museums to communicate between data sets of your content and the data of your users. I think we are at the moment in a process, we should start to think about user data strategies, yeah, because the discussion about digitization and digitality in the museum sector was for a long time about content digitization, but we need also strategies for the user data, yeah, and I think one of the most interesting points of entry for AI applications is this communication between museum data and user data. And you can take your own example, for example, language. Yeah, you already have AI-driven platforms like DeepL and several others that produce astounding results in translating. Yeah, that's not categorization, but translating. And some museums are starting to use these tools to automatically translate stuff. And if you take the usual situation in museums that you have 2 or 3 languages, maybe for the description of objects, if at all, yeah, maybe you have only 1 language, German, English, or whatever, or a language is used by curators maybe for several decades or so. You can use these approaches to make these data accessible. Yeah, you can give users automatic translations that may not be perfect, but at least there is something, yeah, to get access to the collection.
Okay, we're approaching fast the end of our session. Is there one last question maybe that is one burning question left? Because yeah, well, it's too little time for this topic, but maybe I'll just throw it in. I'm always wondering because Elena, you mentioned biases and, you know, data sets with AI, what the potential is, because we focused a lot on diversifying the collections in the first 2 sessions with querying and also with diversity in general. Do you see any potential apart from the bias, fears and dangers for digital tools and AI to foster diversity in collection collecting processes?
So challenging.
I'm sorry.
I mean, there's so lack of diversity, and that's one of the things we talk about in the museum sector in general, in how museums have been collected. And I think what the analysis of the collection data is showing is that lack of diversity and how that already will create a bias when you train the algorithm. Yeah, I mean, I think that can surface like the current lack of diversity issues of museum collections and can bring like new policies about collecting. But I mean, it's very, I don't know, I don't have the definitive answer about it, or I could spend like another like 1.5 just on diversity in collections, and also on these algorithms, the way have been trained in many cases is also based on already some biased data, like ImageNet is probably the most obvious case that can come to our minds. And yeah, I don't have the definite answer about how to solve that issue, but I think it can surface some issues about lack of diversity.
Thank you. Yeah, is there anything else that I think we could discuss forever? I have the feeling, because there's so many topics that were mentioned and also already in the talks. But I was talking to Daniela of maybe we do a maybe later in the year like a second session or a check-in session of what if there's if you want to discuss more. But I think we heard a lot today about ways about participation and about AI, and also problems and challenges, but also great potential. I want to thank my two guests, Elena and Johannes, for their insightful presentations, and really all of you for joining this discussion. I really enjoyed it, and I think really, yeah, we could talk for forever, I think. We are going to post the recording of this session soon on the We Are Museums channel, and also in next month on February the 18th, the next session of Reframing Collecting would be on collecting memories. So if you're also interested in that, please check in and join the We Are Museums community. There's a lot of interesting talks happening. And for now, it's just left to say thank you again for this nice start of the afternoon in my case, and 1.5 hours of talking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You very interesting.